Hello, and welcome to Everyday Connection with your hosts, Rico Shields and Jean Victoria Norlock, bringing your inner light to your everyday life. Welcome, everybody, to this Thursday edition of Everyday Connection. I'm Rico Shields, and I have here with me Jean Victoria Norlock. How are you, Jean?
I'm fantastic, Rick. You still sound like a radio show host.
Oh, I don't know. It's a birth defect, I think. I came this way.
Did you? That's exciting.
It's fun. So we have an exciting and special edition of our show tonight, and we're not going to fiddle around much before we get to it. I do want to give a shout-out to everyone that's in the chat room, to all the guests that are listed. We know you can't type back, but we still want to say things like we love you and all that. And we've got Ann, David, Grandma. We got lots of folks in there tonight, so it's fantastic. And, Jean, you want to shout out to our friends and family at Inner Child?
Absolutely. Shout out to our friends and family and Inner Child. To the Inner Child family, as usual, we love you. We adore you. We thank you for all your loving kindness, support. That's innerchild.ning.com. Basically, they are a great place to hang if you're a wayward, creative spirit. They are best known for embracing people for who they are and helping to empower them to appreciate the light within. So if you're looking for a home, it's innerchild.ning.com. And, well,
excellent, folks. Excellent stuff. And they're having a neat contest right now, so just briefly to tell you about it. It's called the World Healing World Poetry 2012 Contest. And their website is also at World Healing World Peace 2012.yolasite.com, and I'll get that up in the chat room for you. Fantastic contest. 3 big winners are going to get a book of their poetry published, literal physical book in your hand as well as ebook, cover design, distribution. You're going to be on, last count, it was 8 or 9 different radio shows. Just a fantastic package that we've helped put together with our family over there. So we hope to get some great submissions. They're coming in from around the world, so have a look at the website. It's
for World Healing and World Peace.
Yeah, how can you go wrong there?
Can't go wrong there. Absolutely not.
And we know it's the holiday time, but it's the end of this month is the deadline. So poets out there, get your words in. We'd like to see them.
Absolutely.
So without further ado, perhaps we should having an echo effect?
Grandma says she's having an echo effect.
And someone else asked, but a couple other folks said that they're not having the problem. So.
Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on the chat room, guys. If you're still hearing an echo, let us know, and Rick will play.
And you can try
refreshing.
Also, pressing F5 or reload. Sometimes that'll cure sound problems. Absolutely. All right. Well, tonight is all about a fellow that is with us. His name is Darryl Anka. He's done a lot of fantastic things. A lot of us have followed him from one side or the other, and I did not know when I first was seeing his work with Bashar that he actually had a great career in the movie industry, and is now has his first movie produced, directed, and written. So we're going to hear all about that. Darryl, how are you tonight?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic. So, Darryl, it's usually my job to ask the first hard-hitting question. But I'm not going to do that tonight because the first question is usually, who the hell are you and what do you do? And I think pretty much everybody knows who you are. So I'm going to ask a different question. Okay. How's that production thing going? I saw the trailer, and I'm absolutely in love with the concept of this film. So I want to talk about that right away because it looks to me to be one of the coolest things.
All right. Well, maybe for those that don't know, let me give just a brief introduction as to what the film is that we've just created. It is, as you said, the first film that I've written, produced, and directed through our production company, Zia Films. The film is called Dearly Departed, and it's a fictional documentary, as if we took a camera into the afterlife and interviewed the spirits of people who've passed on to get their take on life after death. A lot of it is not literally based on, but loosely based on the idea of reports from near-death experiences about what people have reported seeing on the other side of the afterlife. And we thought that instead of just doing a relatively straightforward or dry documentary, we would do a fictional documentary as if we were interviewing people on the other side, so that we could also get the emotional factor in, get some characters in there, and really explore with them the whole idea of the possibility of what happens after we die, and also explore the possibilities of what's available to us here while we're still alive, and what kind of changes we may wish to make to our lives before we die. So it was a very, very fun project, and it's now in post-production. We hope to be finished with it sometime in the early part of this next year, and we'll be talking to various distributors to see when we can get the movie out to a theater near you.
It sounds like, well, like I said, I've seen the trailer. I absolutely love the trailer. Where did you originally come up with the concept? And I know there's a lot of mystery in the public about the whole making of the film process, because when I started getting into making films, my head just almost exploded from the overwhelming amount of behind-the-scenes work that actually goes into it. So do you mind telling us a little bit about the process, from conception of idea to getting the team together to actually getting this on film and getting it out to the public?
No, not at all. It's been quite an education, quite a learning curve. The inspiration, as I sort of hinted at, came from reading books of reports on near-death experiences, and I just kind of thought that the information was fascinating, but like I said, I wanted to present it in kind of a novel way rather than just a straightforward documentary, because I'd seen those. And so we just came up with the idea of, like, well, documentaries usually interview people on the subject of the documentary, and I just thought, well, why not shoot the movie as if we could literally interview people who have died and see what the other side is all about, and where they're going, what they've planned, what they've learned, who they left behind, what they would have changed in their lives if they had the chance, and so on and so forth. So that was really kind of the germination of the seed of the idea. And even though we had never written, produced, and directed a film on our own before, I have worked in the film industry for the past 30 years in special effects, miniatures, design, sets, storyboards, and I've also been writing scripts for several years. I've had one script produced and a couple of other scripts optioned, and it just felt like it was time for us to really begin functioning as a production company ourselves. And of course, the best way to function as a production company is to produce something. So, we had at least some idea of how to proceed, and of course, it all starts with the script. And once that was written, we started looking around for ways to accomplish it with a minimal amount of funds. We were fortunate enough to attract several investors who were very interested in the subject, who were willing to join us and partner with us in getting the film done. But we did this very, very low budget on a very streamlined crew over a period of several months. My brother and I actually built all the sets ourselves, and we shot on weekends and did it until we got the job done, and edited on computers and Final Cut, and now it's in the hands of several post-production houses to do the work that we can't do, such as music and visual effects and things like that. But the process, like I said, has been extremely educational. I'm actually going to be writing a book about the behind-the-scenes process of how we made the movie and what all the challenges were that we faced in doing so, in the hopes that other people making low-budget films can learn from the things that happened to us and maybe help other people go through the same process a little bit more smoothly.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, wish I had that book 3 years ago.
So do I.
I'll tell you what.
Gene kind of walked into the middle of something that was operating by the seat of its pants when she got there, and I think she knew as much about movie production as I do. Not much. They do that before it comes to the theater.
Right.
Actually, I didn't walk into it though. I actually was part of the birth of the thing, and I, given the fact that we were all, except for our director, who was in the film industry, and our film crew that we found in the Philippines, we had no idea how to go about making a film. I think we did smashing well, given that we had no idea what we were doing at the time, and we were
fantastically well.
I think that's the best way actually to learn to make a movie is to make a movie. There's really no ifs and no substitute for experience.
It really, because we're about to launch another one. Actually, we have already launched another film project, documentary project, and I'm telling you, now looking back over the last 3 years and being able to see what I've done and what doesn't work and what does work, it's making this so much more smooth.
Yeah, your book's going to be a blessing to a lot of people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to reading that actually.
I hope so, because we faced many challenges, and I would definitely love to do anything I can to help other people avoid the same pitfalls. But we persevered, we got through them, and they became great learning experiences.
So you managed to pull this off on a really low budget, which is really cool because people, might be surprised at how much money it takes even to make a short independent film, even if it's documentary. It's a ridiculous amount of money usually that it takes. Were you able to get a lot of people to come on board and just volunteer their time and their energy and their being and put it into the project?
In general, yes, although we actually did pay everyone. But again, it wasn't much. I suppose in some senses it was next to nothing. But we were just of the feeling that, at least giving people something would at least, demonstrate that we're honoring the skills that they're bringing. And, probably for the most part, we certainly paid them in the sense that we fed everyone, which is really in some ways more important sometimes than getting a paycheck, is to make sure that people are getting taken care of, getting a good meal, and, that the set was at all times relaxed and a fun place to be. And that we really appreciated all the skills that people were bringing to bear to make the project happen.
So what's your favorite part about the filmmaking process?
I really am very happy when I'm involved in a lot of different things, which is one of the reasons why I really enjoy directing, because you have to be deeply involved in every aspect of making the movie. But because also of my own background in effects and design, I'm fortunate enough to know how to do a lot of those aspects of the film as well. And not that I always will want to choose to do that, but it helps to certainly have some experience in a variety of areas of filmmaking, because even if I don't do them myself, I certainly have an understanding of what needs to be done. And that way, as a producer, I can more readily keep my finger on the pulse of what other people that I've hired might be doing, and it gives me a little bit more of an ability to understand the whole picture, the big picture, or the vision of the project, and guide it, to where I believe it needs to go.
So you work with a really small core team. You said you did the project with your brother?
My brother was one of the team. My wife is also a producer on the movie. We hired a director of photography, sound people and makeup people, post-production people. We're working with a person to compose music, a person to do color correction, visual effects, and sound, and that's about it. It's a very, very streamlined, minimized team, but it was exactly all the departments that we knew we needed to have someone in and to get the job done.
It must have been a big adventure because I know, at least it seems, large productions like that, like you've worked on in Hollywood, are probably so big that very few people see the whole process outside of the producer and director, and because they just seem so large. I mean, miniatures and models, and that would be quite time consuming but it sounds like a lot of fun.
It is. I mean, it was a lot of hard work. Like I said, it's we had to do it in such a way that the thing that we're proud of is that the film looks great, and it's going to look like it cost way more than it did because of the things like the sets and some of the visual effects and elements like that. I mean, for example, we basically rented out a 15 by 30 office space as our sound stage, and we actually built a soundproof wall to minimize the sound that was coming in. But my brother and I basically spent the week building one set, then we'd shoot on Saturday, then we'd tear the set down and build another set the next week, and then shoot on Saturday and do the same thing over and over and over again for 3.5 months. So we have, over 25 actors in this movie. We have about as many sets. We have over 550 visual effects shots in the movie. But so it's quite an undertaking for a low-budget movie, but it was really just a matter of planning everything out as best as we could and just methodically doing what we needed to do, one thing after another, until we got it done.
And having seen the trailer, I have to say it certainly does look like a full-fledged, expensive production to me. And the sets, makeup, and I would have never imagined that y'all built sets and shot on the weekends and.
Yeah, I think people are going to be amazed when they see some of the behind-the-scenes shots in the book and later on, because they're going to realize that many times we had, one set on one wall and another set on another wall that were probably about 10 feet apart, but you can't tell that when you're actually shooting the set and it's all lit and the actor is performing. You think you're on some massive soundstage somewhere, but many of the sets are just the same wall where we tore the old set out and put the new set in, and it's, like I said, about maybe not even 5 feet from the set behind us, and if we were to move the camera literally sometimes an inch to the right or an inch to the left, we would actually be off the set, and you would see, the rest of the office or the rest of the other sets or something like that. So it was very tight and very well planned. We only built exactly what we needed and not 1 foot more. And that way we were able to maximize the benefit of appearing to have a much larger production while keeping our costs down.
Yeah, it just all the way around sounds like genius. I was enthralled by the idea when I first saw it, and posted. It was a post about your Kickstarter campaign, which that seemed like an interesting story to me. That you didn't quite get there on the Kickstarter campaign, but before it was right, perhaps even because it was there, someone just stepped forward or some investors stepped forward but it was provided for. But
yes,
you took
exactly.
the action that you could, and then it happened. We've had a few synchronicities like that ourselves, and it's really cool when they happen.
Yeah, and that sort of brings us to the metaphysical side, because that's exactly what we did. We followed our excitement to the best of our ability, and even though it didn't turn out the way we expected, the synchronicity is that it attracted what we did need and allowed us to do what we needed to do. So, yeah, we were very, very happy that that worked as a perfect example of acting on your excitement with no real expectation, but everything working out.
So just out of curiosity, from an author's perspective, are you going to incorporate that into the book as well? Just because it's such an interesting element to the making of a film, or actually any large project, is to just take
absolutely.
a step back and go, okay, I expect the universe is going to bring me exactly what I need, and then to be able to document that process.
Absolutely, because that happens throughout the making of the movie. I mean, really, the truth is that we actually started filming this movie once, and actually found that one of our initial investors a long time ago was not able to deliver the money that they had promised. So we actually had to stop production, and it took us a while before we would raise the rest of the money to actually start the production again. But we found out that when that happened, in terms of the actors that we had cast in a couple of the roles in the initial shoot, we actually were not able to get them back for the second time we started shooting. But the actors we got to replace them for the second time were actually much more appropriate for the role. So again, it's like every time something happened that seemed to be an obstacle, it really just turned out to be a challenge that was in our favor, and always, every single time, resulted in something making the film even better than we had imagined. So that happened all the way through the filmmaking, and it's absolutely part of the story of the behind-the-scenes making of the movie, and I think it's a very important point to add, because when you're making a low-budget movie, in a lot of ways, you really have to rely on synchronicity and on following your excitement to bring you the things that are necessary to get the film done, because you're working with almost nothing. So you've got to really rely on abundance coming to you in a number of different forms.
Absolutely. We talk very often here at Everyday Connection about, look, you've got the idea, you've got the pull, take a step. Just go.
Absolutely.
It'll happen the way it's supposed to happen, and I think that's a missing ingredient, not just the get up and go, but the allowance of, okay, I plan to do it this way, but as long as it gets done, I'm not really caring how, as long as it's ethical, and whatever.
Exactly, of course. And nowadays, with regard to the way the equipment is, I mean, there's almost no excuse not to be able to make a movie, because, I mean, we bought, the new cameras that exist now are relatively inexpensive but produce very high-quality images, and, you have Final Cut Pro on your computer and all these different tools that are now available to people to make a movie. I mean, really, in terms of equipment costs, I don't think we really spent more than just a few $1,000s. So, it's really very, very doable at this point to make a feature-length film. If you have a simple idea that can be executed well, then absolutely go for it.
Yeah, it seems to me, just from the little bit of video editing I've done and playing with some short videos we put up on the net, that it's almost like if you went back and looked at Star Trek, the original series, you've got access to better equipment and effects almost now for a very small budget than they did that whole thing with.
Oh, absolutely. They
have big sound stages, but...
Yeah, no, it's amazing what you can do now. Yeah, so there's really no reason to hold back on a creative idea like that. It's really quite accessible for just about anyone to be able to make a movie.
I think also an element to that accessibility is our communication abilities now as well. I mean, I know a lot of the people who have jumped on board in the last couple of weeks with our project are people from around the world. It's turning into an insane global project of just, the birth of a bunch of really big-hearted souls, and it's incredible to watch people using their individual talents and skills from, various countries and various continents even, and come together on one project. I think that's the most exciting thing to me about the times that we're living in right now.
Right, a lot of those barriers don't exist anymore, and you can really pull on talented people from all over the world to do a number of things, and then it works in the other direction as well with, the internet and all sorts of other social media sites. Now you have a fantastic opportunity for incredible viral marketing campaigns to get the word out about your movies and films that didn't exist, even 10 years ago. So it's a really fantastic opportunity to find people to help you do projects and to also let people know that projects exist that they might be interested in seeing.
Exciting times.
Yeah.
Exciting times.
It's I think ideas that might not have made it through the vetting process that goes on with big productions. It seems to me any group that regardless of how they started off, if you become this huge, monstrous corporate entity that's in Hollywood, it gets so impersonal and formulaic, and ideas. I think ideas like ours would never make it. And
well, that's what's great. You're seeing such a rise of independent filmmaking now. Really, Hollywood in many ways, just to use the term in general, is so split now into really all that's really being produced, for the most part, with very few exceptions, are very, very large blockbusters and relatively small independent movies. So it's a wonderful time for independent filmmakers to get their voice heard, get their projects out there, because people are really looking for interesting content and wonderful stories. And that's really the bottom line, is if you've got a really good story and you're able to tell it well, I think you'll find that there is an audience for that.
It also, to me, opens up an opportunity for our youth to be able to explore that element of creation as well, because they're not stuck behind this expectation that they have an education in the film industry in order to be able to create something that people can appreciate. And I'm really fascinated by watching some of the youth around the world and some of the stuff that they're coming out with now. The quality of it and the thought and the attention to detail that goes into some of these young people's creations is just, to me, absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it is.
So exciting.
It is. It's very exciting to watch. There's a lot of natural storytellers out there that now have the tools to tell their stories.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We went from being able to tell your story because there was always a campfire or a pub or a something somewhere that, there was no TV, radio, or anything, so they were happy to have a little entertainment, to you can't break in because you've got to be big, to now it's wide open again.
Right.
The pendulum swings, I suppose.
Exactly.
So I'm thinking it's time for a little music. We'll take a short break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about that other element of your life that I'm sure people in the chat room are wanting to discuss.
Well, yes, they are, and it's got to be a legitimate topic because I think, because at least for me, that side of life is just a side of life. It's not a different part, or but it's also interesting, and we're going to at least question perhaps about it, that you seem to have done a great job of having sort of two separate parallel tracks going on at once. So that's what I want to hear about. So we're going to hear about some cool stuff when we come back. What do you want to hear, Gene? What
do we got?
We got Hang Players, of course. We have Dana Harmon. We have Matthews. We have Jordan Okran.
We have
of course.
Jordan.
We have
let's
Jordan.
Play some Jordan because we're going to talk about Jordan at the end of the show. So let's play a little Jordan.
How about we'll play Jordan's song Anyhow, Jordan Okran, a good friend of ours, and we'll be right back. Stay with us, folks.
simply 'cause they can't believe. Oh, people think they have no say in the way the world is shaped. Oh, and the truth will only be known if we rise up off the floor. And the truth will only be known if we see what we really are anyhow. Oh, anyhow. People looking everywhere at leaders that just don't care. We all have the strength inside to lead the life we fantasize. Oh, and the truth will only be known if we rise up off the floor. And the truth will only be known if we see what we really are, the lion in our hearts. And we can change the world, you and me together, and fight for what is right, truth, love, and light. And we can change the world, you and me forever, if we realize what we are anyhow. Change the world, you and me together, and fight for what is right, truth, love, and light. And we can change the world, you and me forever, if we realize what we are. Oh, and the truth will only be known if we rise up off the floor. And the truth will only be known if we see what we really are, the lion in our hearts anyhow. Oh, anyhow. Yeah, we can be the change we need anyhow, 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 anyhow,
All right. We like a little Jordan Okren.
We like us a little Jordan Okren. Absolutely.
Okay, so we've already had someone who came in late that went right to the heart of the question: is Bashar going to be channeling tonight? I got here late and has answered her that probably not. It's not really wasn't in the plan. You know, he gets to do. Bashar gets to live his life and do what he wants to do. So, you know, I don't think he sneaks up on Darryl the way that George sneaks up on Gene, but.
Sneaks up on George, never leaves.
But it is the white elephant in the room, I suppose. I appreciate your chatting with us about your movie, because it's just, to me, exciting, and looking forward to seeing it. But
thank you.
I think most of Bashar's fans by this point have heard the story of how you and Bashar began working together. I would love to hear just a tad more, perhaps, about these two broad daylight, up close, with people with you, sightings. I have been a Star Trek fan, UFO nut, science nut, geek for many, many years, and have not seen anything that I'm aware of. But so how was that? Was that first one? Did that just like freak you to smooth out, or what?
Well, it was definitely shocking, eye-opening, because it was so close, so broad daylight, so blatant. Both of the sightings were, and the sightings were only a week apart, which was even more startling. So seeing this, equilateral triangular craft floating about 150 feet up the first time and about only 70 feet up the second time was something that completely shifted my world. I mean, I always, before that, heard UFO stories, and I thought, okay, maybe something like that might be possible. But once you actually lay your eyes on something like that, and you know for a fact that such things exist, and you no longer are believing but knowing that that's real, it changes everything in your reality. And it was from those sightings that I began doing, more investigation into UFOs and other metaphysical subjects, and ultimately that led me to the idea of what channeling was all about, and ultimately, without me necessarily intentionally choosing, at least not consciously choosing, to be a channel, it led to the beginning of my channeling.
So certainly it was purposeful for you and on Bashar's part.
Yes.
I think sometimes people, you just have this hot desire, man, I'd love to see one of those, but you don't know why and what purpose that would serve in your life. And it was quite specific in your case, and
yes.
like you say, blatant, right up that close, like you could just almost reach out and touch it.
Yeah, and of course I found out
that
later.
Sort of blatant thing.
Yeah, shown to me on purpose to get me to start doing the research I needed to do, so that by the time it came time for me to do the channeling, which I had agreed to do before this life, which I didn't remember, I would have the wherewithal and the knowledge to begin. So yes, it was a very purposeful part of the whole agenda of helping me to get to the point I needed to get to be able to actually do the channeling with Bashar, which, of course, that was, as far as I understand, that was his ship. So he sort of started the ball rolling with that very, very blatant presentation.
So I have a question that I try to ask all the channels that we bring on the show whenever we have a channel on the show. It's, I think, a really important element of what everyday connection means. Now, you've been channeling Bashar for a very long time. And, what I would really like to know, and I think, speaking of the film, has given us some insight into how it has affected and changed your life, but I'd really like to hear from you on a more personal note how the lessons that you've learned in working closely with Bashar have affected your perception of reality and how they've changed your ability to accomplish that which in previous years you might not have thought were possible.
Well, I think the simplest way to answer that, the most profound, I think, change that's happened for me in doing the channeling and being exposed to Bashar's point of view is when I'm channeling, I get to feel what they feel, what Bashar and his people feel, and it's such a profoundly different state than the way we normally operate on Earth. When I'm channeling, even though I don't hear the words, I can feel the energy coming through. I can feel what they're perceiving, and I can understand the general concepts sinking into me. And when I'm channeling, I feel that they don't feel one shadow of a doubt about anything. They are so full of conviction about what it is that they know to be true that I can feel that state too when I'm in the channeling state. And so that has rubbed off on me over the years and given me a much, much more profound understanding of the nature of reality and how it's structured, and it's allowed me to stop trying to make things happen, because I realized that the truth is all we really need to do is be who we truly are and just allow the things to happen that are representative and reflective of our particular frequency. And when we stop trying to make things happen and just allow them to happen, life becomes so much more synchronistic and so much more ecstatic and so much more representative of the kind of passion and excitement that Bashar talks about all the time, that you really begin to realize that life can be truly one grand adventure. And I think that's the most profound thing I've experienced in doing the channeling with Bashar.
That's really interesting, because I notice in my personal progression, as certain things, either through getting familiar with them in the channeling state, so to speak, or just getting used to, sort of start out saying, okay, this is true. Yeah, that makes sense. This is good. But it's when you get that visceral, it's just there. It's just, you don't have to think about it anymore, that it really, life begins to morph almost.
Right. And I think the one thing that's also, I think, important for everyone to sort of get a handle on, and what we were talking about with regard to the idea of the films and the channeling being sort of two parallel tracks, in many ways they're actually very intertwined, because channeling really, from my understanding, is a natural state that we all have the ability to do, and that from time to time we all do experience, because anytime you're doing anything you love to do, anytime you're acting on your passion, when you're focused on something and there's no sense of the passage of time, when an actor becomes the character, when a singer is lost in the song, that's a channeling state. So it just depends on what we want to do with that state that determines, what direction we can take it in, and what other levels of our own consciousness and other dimensions of consciousness or other beings of consciousness we can connect to in that state. But everyone has the natural ability. It's a natural altered state, and it's not really something that's foreign to anyone. It's just a matter of knowing you can do it and choosing to be in that state.
I'm going to use a word I don't often use because I reserve it for moments of deep respect. Namaste, brother. I've been saying that for so long, and it's so important for people to understand. I mean, you know what? If you're a mechanic and you get into the zone and you're fixing a car and you just, you automatically know what to do and your hands are going, to me that's a way of channeling your higher self.
Absolutely.
I wish people would just accept that it's natural. There's nothing magical or mystical about it. It's part of your being. It's part of who you are.
It is.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the most profound message that I think that has come through, and has come through most channels that I know, is look, you do this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost look at it like it's just an ongoing conversation that's kind of just below. It's not quite in your noticing, not quite in your consciousness, and you just sort of bring that to the surface. And so it's not just limited and is intertwined. It's but I have great appreciation for the way that you've not tried to play one off the other.
No, it's all connected. It's all interconnected, and I think it's really representative of that state that best expresses our being as a whole person. It's the balanced relationship between the physical mind and the higher mind expressing itself as a total being. And when you're in that state, you have access to more information, more awareness, more perspective, and you just function from a more balanced, higher vibrational state. And I just think that's actually closer to our natural state. And that's really what it's all about, is being who we truly are, instead of holding ourselves back.
Wow, what do you think?
Yeah.
That was my
those awe moments, when
I'm just going to breathe that in for a minute and just allow that to percolate and just sit in people's heart space for a moment, so that they can appreciate just how easy it is to attain that everyday connection.
And that it just can hopscotch you around things. It gets
like
to where
hopscotching, feels like
that.
Hopscotching.
I mean, you notice that they're there. It's I know Bashar talks about beliefs and a lot because, of course, beliefs are foundational to what you experience. And but it amazes me how it seemed like a challenge and task and chore at first to find, well, what's the belief that makes me feel like that? And then it just becomes, they just pop up. They just pop right up in front of your face and after a while. And if you're walking, now if you're sitting in the corner trying to wait for enlightenment, they're really kind of hard to find. But
it requires taking action. It requires a willingness to open up to those things. And that's why I think it's sort of an all-encompassing kind of activity, because when you do act on your passion, it functions kind of as the driving engine, as Bashar says, and the organizing principle of your life, and it brings you the things you need to know about yourself, the things you need to discover within you that may be out of alignment with that excitement, so that you can tell there's a difference and you can deal with that and you can integrate that knowledge within yourself. And when you do that, it becomes exciting to find those challenges, because all it does when you integrate those beliefs and transform them is it only adds more excitement to your life, and it expands you in a variety of ways. So eventually those challenges become not only very exciting, but they become desired. They become something you want to discover, because you now know that the only thing that's going to happen when those challenges come up is that you're going to grow into more of yourself, and you're going to experience even more ecstasy in your life. So, yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
It's definitely that what next, what's that, or even that what now.
Well,
what
now?
What are we doing now? What are we doing now? What are we doing now?
Exactly.
But as you shift your perspective, it just seems that, an old belief will pop up and you just look at it and it just doesn't even make any sense. And you just go, well, that's silly. And poof, it covers.
Exactly.
It's just...
Exactly. Once you identify, this is one of the things actually Bashar has talked about very, very strongly, is once you actually consciously identify a belief that is out of alignment with your true self, you'll recognize that it actually doesn't belong to you. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit. It's illogical. And because it's illogical, you let it go. And that's what the power is of identifying the belief, because the only reason it has, in a sense, any effect on you is because you're not even aware that it's there. But once you know it's there and you see that it doesn't fit, then it's easy to let something like that go, because you realize it probably came from your parents or your friends or society, or it belongs to someone else. And I think one of the funniest ways that Bashar has sort of framed that is that once you realize you have a belief that belonged to someone else and it isn't yours, well, you don't want to hang on to it, because if you do, then that makes you a belief thief. It's like you're stealing other people's beliefs, and you don't want to do that, because it's not nice to steal. So you give them back, let them go. They don't belong to you. Move on with the beliefs that do belong to you, and you won't be so weighed down by the extra baggage of things that aren't yours.
Right. Again, one of my favorite ones, enlightenment is as much about lightening up as anything else. It just, I try to, kind of sift through, because there's a lot of exciting topics that Bashar gets asked about, and they're exciting to me, and I love hearing some talk about Atlantis or what's going on and what happened over there. But particularly when he's talking, presenting his message before questions and answers, it's pretty focused on just a few simple things.
Right.
And that it's really not necessary to be, like I said, I was a Star Trek nut, and I'm convinced that there are quite a few civilizations around, and that the reason we don't get radio messages is because they quit using radio a long time ago, or maybe never used it.
Right.
But it doesn't really matter if you think any of that's even possible. There's some just real concrete, and to me, like you said, the beliefs and the "it's not yours, drop it," and the take action. So many quote spiritual disciplines sort of seem like you sit in the corner and do all of that first before you go out in the world and do anything. And I think we're missing a lot of wonderful creative stuff from people if they would just, when you feel that this is where I need to get up and start going. And
yeah,
to me, that's the act of faith, is to take that one step when you don't know where it's going to go, and then just let yourself go where it goes.
Right, and I think in the phrase itself, act of faith is the key word, and that means there is an action involved in expressing what it is you truly believe, rather than just thinking about it. So it doesn't really matter exactly what process, or as Bashar calls them, permission slips, that people use to get into that proper state, but eventually people do need to sort of express that state through physical action, because we have chosen to be physical beings. And expressing that energy through physical action grounds it in physical reality and allows the effect of that energy to radiate out in the physical world. And thus it's then available for other people to also participate in and pick up on that energy and make similar choices if they wish to, because we can act by example. We thus then function as examples for how other people can also make the kinds of choices that are representative of acting on their dreams. But action is one of the keys.
Yeah, it's almost like we can personally become a permission slip for others. They
Absolutely.
can see us do it, and they go, well, it must be okay.
Absolutely.
Because we all, at some point and at some level, sort of crave that belonging, and try that misguided, okay, this is what everybody's doing, so I'm going to do it, as opposed to finding that belonging inside yourself where it doesn't ever go away again.
Right. So it just takes jumping in the water and swimming, It's like, come on in, the water's fine.
Absolutely. And we had a comment from our dear friend Kevin in the chat room. He said, but I've always said I think too damn much. And I said, me too. That's why I always bring this subject up. I need it as much as anybody. I think we all, there is some truth into you often teach things you need to learn.
Sure.
I learned as much for myself out of this adventure as I think I've ever. If I could impart 10% of that to anybody, I would think myself blessed, because we're a bit selfish. We like talking to cool people and hearing about what they're doing. Our film idea is all about that. It's about people that are actually doing something.
Right. But everyone is a teacher and everyone is a student. You never stop teaching, and you never stop learning.
I think the best part about the show is that we get to learn every time we come on the radio. Every single time we come on the radio, we learn from our guests in the chat room. We learn from our guests who call in. We learn from our guests that we have on the show talking. I don't think I've ever done a show where I haven't learned something that takes me to the next level, and it's fun. It's a fun exploration of, I'd like to say the world, but it's really an exploration of self, because part of the growth experience is recognizing that everybody that we bring onto the show is really that it always it doesn't matter how far in advance we schedule somebody, they always happen to be scheduled for the right day for whatever's going on in that moment.
There's that wonderful synchronicity again.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a blast just to be able to live that in doing the show. Not just talk about it, not just write about it as an author, not just teach about it, but to actually live it and experience it and share that with other people. That's the fun. That's the yummy. That's the cool. And, again, that's that everyday connection that we keep talking about, that sense of blended beingness where you're constantly in communication with your higher being, simply because you know that your higher being is always there. It's always talking to you, and all you have to do is be willing to listen.
And that comes through your imagination and inspiration in a variety of ways.
Yeah, those aha moments. It's the example I love to give people. Everybody's had one where you go, I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot like that.
Great moments.
And so I really appreciate you going there with us and talking about it, because we do love to hear the channel side on Everyday Connection of, how's this work for you? Is this, because it's a growth process. that, and how, whether it's going to be difficult, it's going to be challenging, it's going to be painful, that's all up to you. You get to decide. It doesn't have to be.
No, it's what you define, how you define it is how you experience it. So, if you approach it with fear, you're going to have some pretty rough challenges. If you approach it with love and joy, it's going to be much more exciting.
Absolutely. I wrestled with mine for years. Back in the mid-'80s, I picked up some Seth books, and then I came across Opening the Channel, incredible book. And, wonderful. I think still one of the best books on, because there's only so much that can be said about teaching somebody to channel. You can't teach somebody to channel because we all do that all the time. It's just sort of giving you permission and maybe some tools to consciously get in touch with that. But so I sort of kind of did some exercises, and it happened, and it scared the living daylights out of me. It was like, holy, they're talking. I'm going crazy. I'm losing my mind. And I carried that fearful reaction, that knee-jerk reaction, forward for years and sort of hid from myself. And so it's always one of the things that I like to make a point to people is if people say, boy, I wish I could channel. And I say, why? What do you want to do? And they go, well, it just seems cool. Okay, it is. It's very cool. But,
as we said, everyone does channel in different ways if they want really to get into that state. So I think you reminded me of something that Bashar said once, where he said, one of the greatest shocks that we're going to discover is that what we've always been, taught is a fairy tale is actually the way life is. And it's when you make those, discoveries and you realize that these kinds of things you never thought were possible actually are possible and maybe even highly probable, and you kind of shock yourself into waking up into a new reality,
Oh, yeah, it scared the hell out of me when I started doing it. I didn't... My pen just went off.
Yeah.
What is going on? Why is my handwriting different? I don't understand. I was one of the few who had no idea what channeling was. I'd never explored channeling. I'd never been exposed to it. I was brought up in a Christian background, so I had no idea what I was doing. And until they explained to me what I was doing, and through my writing of my second book, and I was like, oh, wow. And then I started. It was after that I met Rick, and I found you and your work, and then I was exposed to some other work, Abraham Hicks. I saw that and went completely bonkers. So it's like, oh, that's them. I know them. I've been talking to them with my pen, and it was for somebody who'd never been exposed to it. It was like, wow, what just I can't. And the things that I was learning through my pen, not acceptable. I was arguing with my book because I was like, no, I can't write that. I can't even think that, let alone you want me to write that and then publish it and put it out into the public.
You want me to tell somebody?
You want me to tell somebody?
Sure.
It was a truly...
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question in terms of our timing here, because I think if I need to call in, I may need to call you back on another phone because this one's about to give up the ghost, battery-wise.
Okay.
Well, we can play a song.
Yeah, it's about time for us to take a break, and then we were going to take a few questions if you've got time to stay with us.
Oh, I definitely have time. I just need to call you on another phone.
Perfect.
Okay, I will call you right back.
Great, thanks. Darryl Anka, ladies and gentlemen. I never say it that way. What am I doing? Sound like a radio guy.
You sound like a radio guy.
Happens sometimes.
Do not lie to the listeners.
The radio guy goes off.
I'm not a radio guy.
In the head.
We're going to listen to a song, though, I bet.
Yeah, sure. I'm thinking maybe some Wanderlust.
David.
This would be David Swarup, ladies and gentlemen, playing an instrument that looks like a UFO called the Hang. And we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us. That's never happened before. That was kind of cool.
Funny. That was kind of cool. So, Kevin, yes, I said your name. I want to give you a call. We'll talk about that ego thing because that'll be fun. And for those who want to know, what's out of commission is my mister, but my demon boyfriend fixed it, so it's all good.
Absolutely. I think, water mist, humidity.
Yes,
so.
It creates mist with a
water mister,
glowing
not
light.
Her Mister. Her Mister fixed her mister. Oh, stop it.
So we're back.
And we're going to take a couple of questions if anybody'd like to ask something. As we generally do, we would, ask that the soulmate, dead relative job questions be held for another time. If you must. I don't know. The channels in the chat room are laughing now. All right, so we have a young lady I talked to right before the show that called in and said she had a question. Area code 814. You had a question for Darryl?
Yes, I do, please. Hello, everybody. My name is Azriel.
Hello.
I'm joined. Hello. Darryl, I'm so tickled to speak with you. I'm very honored. And I was doing the chair exercise, and this gentleman, Simon, came through. And I just want to say that, but I ordered your crystal online, and I ordered some of your CDs and DVD. And I was wondering, with the crystal, is there a certain meditation or what you feel like doing?
You're talking about the contact crystal?
Yes.
Yeah, there actually, I believe, is a meditation that Bashar did that comes with it. And when you listen to that meditation while you're holding the crystal, you're charging that crystal with a specific vibration that is the frequency it's like casting a vote for contact, for open contact. So that actually comes with the appropriate meditation for that.
Oh, how wonderful. But very quickly, when you spoke about the chair exercise, if for someone to come through like the first time would be rare, and I understand that. And this, very quickly, if by getting to the other side of the chair, the answer would come to me before I could say it. Is that from me or is that from... Oh, okay.
Well, it doesn't really much matter. The point is that the exercise is designed to allow you to tap into whatever frequency you need to tap into to get the information you need. And you're always having help from guides and what have you, but the whole point of guides and channeling is that you're also strengthening your ability to access that information yourself anyway. So it doesn't really matter exactly how it comes to you. The whole point is that a variety of exercises and permission slips are allowing you to determine on some level what way works best for you, just to get the information.
Okay, I just wanted to thank you that through your channeling, I'm a better person, and I thank you for all the work that you have done.
Well, it's my pleasure,
good night.
And thank you.
Thank you, Darryl. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. We do have two other callers on the line, and, of course, you're welcome to be on the line just to listen. If you do have a question, you press number 1 on your keypad, and that will show me that you've raised your hand and have a question. For the folks in the chat room, if you have any questions, any further questions for Darryl, just type them in, and we'll put them across. I had perhaps an odd question. Can I ask my odd question, Jane? Aunt Jane?
Yes, you can ask. I don't care what you do.
That's why I love working with you. I'm really curious with some physical things that are going on with me lately. I know that Bashar has rarely, I've only seen twice that Bashar has recommended anything specific to people. And I'm curious about this herbal cleansing, body cleansing thing that he's talked about. I've always felt that, perhaps that is a good idea, but that perhaps it's something that, ought to be done in the right way. Kind of goofy science geek that way. I was wondering if you've had any feedback from folks or on how that worked for them.
I've had great feedback from folks. In fact, one person in particular had actually completely blown their knee out in a skiing accident and was a prime candidate for surgery, which they didn't, really prefer to do. And Bashar recommended the detoxification program, and within a month, he had completely healed himself, which the doctors told him was impossible. So I think the idea behind why Bashar will sometimes recommend certain things specifically on only rare occasions is that he knows that he gets a lot of the same kinds of health questions, and so he basically guided me to do some research to find out what would be some of the more effective things that already exist here on Earth, so people didn't have to constantly reinvent the wheel. And so when we found certain things that were very effective, he was willing to allow those particular programs to be recommended to people because he knew it would simply shorten the amount of time that it would take for them to find something that would work for them according to the belief systems that they had at that point.
Right. Yeah, because I know his probably first advice in almost any case is to follow your heart, follow your inner guidance. But I know it's, tough from certain places to even get a whiff of that. At least has been for me. Yeah, I had seen a video from a doctor that has done I don't know that she detoxed any, but she went on a very, what she called it, the paleo diet or the hunter-gatherer diet, based on what the earth provides, the way it provides it, and it reminded me of Bashar's advice on that, people asking about diet or anything.
Right. Well, even though there are many beliefs, because even though there are many belief systems on Earth, there are some things that are sort of generally true for us because we've agreed that they're generally true. In other words, as for a simple example, most of us agree that there's gravity, so we're not going to go floating off the planet. And so he knows that there are certain kinds of permission slips that can work for a lot of people in general because it's keying into such a fundamental consensus belief that it will help get things going and make it a little easier for people to then get in touch with whatever those beliefs are inside them that can take it the rest of the way.
Right. Yeah, because that's important to point out to folks that whether it's cleansing or diet or whatever it is, at the core they're all permission slips because eternal unlimited beings don't blow out their knee. Don't have meals.
So, people create challenges for themselves to teach themselves certain things.
Oh, absolutely. And but in a certain way, even to a science geek's mind, it just makes sense to me, that if there is, as I believe, intelligence behind the way the place is put together, that the food you need to survive optimally would be here without you having to figure out and make it and create it. It would just be here. That would be, on the most basic 3D hologram movie set, that would be the first thing you would do. It's called catering.
Right, exactly.
But in many cases, I've heard him talk about, whether it was a psychedelic or something like that, he said, listen, the indigenous people used what was there, the way it was there, the way it was presented.
And it was fun.
Well, and that it was perhaps useful, but was not something that they obsessed with and did all the time. I don't want to even suggest that on the air. But
no, a lot of it is about understanding that once something opens your eyes to the fact that there is a certain state that is achievable, the idea then is it has shown you that you're capable of achieving that state. It's not about relying on the thing that got you there. It's about knowing that you contain that and can get yourself there from that point forward.
Absolutely. And but that even in those cases and in the cases of food and diet, he talks about it's nice to get it as close to the way Earth provides it as possible.
Yes, of course.
And
nature knows what it's doing.
That's kind of one of our focuses in our film, I guess, isn't it, Jean?
It is. Are we going to talk about that now?
If Darryl will permit us just a moment or two of indulgence, because I'd love to hear what he thinks about the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did just launch it, and we did just announce it on our Tuesday show. So we got to keep promoting it because we got a lot of people working on this thing. Crazy thought. There's a lot of things that maybe some people think that need to be fixed in our world, especially with regards to the environment. So we thought rather than focus on some problems, we would go on the hunt for a collection of solutions. So what we've done is
and put together plenty of focus on problems lately.
Yeah, we were done with the problem thing. So what we've done is we put together a small film team, and we are in the process of the groundwork to make a documentary on eco-sustainable living. Now, the people that we are featuring in the film, it will be a collection of short vignettes with participants from around the world. And we are talking about very simple eco-sustainable solutions, like this little genius in the Philippines who makes lights out of water bottles with water and bleach. And there's the Barefoot College in India that we've contacted, and he's teaching grandmothers in local villages to make solar panels. He's teaching them to be solar engineers so that they can provide solar power for their own villages without needing to rely on big corporations in order to be able to do that, or or other.
Yeah, instead of making some technology drop where you come in and make them this beautiful computer-controlled hoo-ha that 6 months later gets a glitch or something, and nobody can do anything about it.
Right.
And so that's one of our sort of premises or qualifications on our list, was that it has to be easily duplicatable by the people on the ground. Whether
I think that's brilliant. I mean, this falls directly in line with a lot of things that Bashar has said, because he said it's not really about trying to change the things that exist. The old systems are going to crumble anyway because they no longer work. It's about creating new systems to replace them when they do crumble. So I think that, what you're doing with your project is exactly in line with that idea, and opening people's eyes to the idea of how to look at things in a different way and create new systems to replace the old ones that simply don't work for us anymore.
Right, and a lot of the individuals and organizations that we've spoken to have already got on their independent websites open source materials for people so that they can actually do this stuff themselves. We're not looking for the guy who makes the windmill and brings it to your place and installs it for you. We're looking for the guy who will teach you how to build a sandbag house so that you can build your own sandbag house. And we have found some incredible people from around the world that have agreed to jump on board with this project. So for anybody that's listening tonight and wants to be involved with us, please, by all means, contact us at www.everydayconnection.me. We would love to hear your ideas, your insights, any individual talent, skill that you feel that you can throw towards this project. It's an open-hearted, open-minded project. We love the energy around it. We love the energy of the people who have already been involved, and we'd love to hear from you, our listeners, on your ideas, your thoughts, and possible involvement.
The whole idea behind, the solutions that we're going to highlight, and then a website that we're going to build as part of the project and leave as an ongoing thing afterwards, is a place where, even if it links out to these people's websites where they've got these plans, but sort of
an open source information center.
Yeah, what did that lady call it? Instead of R&D, it's R&DIY.
Yeah.
Research and develop it yourself.
Yeah.
Because most of these people are already doing this, so we'll link out to where it's already happening. But there are people around the world are building things off these plans and saying, hey, I got a problem with this, and then somebody says, hey, I've got the solution. So the movie itself is also I call it a big family project. Maybe a big community project would be better, because everybody's idea, I'll tell you right now, everybody's idea is just as valuable as everybody else's. This is a big jigsaw puzzle, and we all are pieces, and there's a reason that we're all unique. If we weren't, the puzzle wouldn't go together. So if you really want to see that beautiful big picture, you got to do your thing.
Not our thing, your thing.
Yeah, and
right.
I think Bashar would say much along the same lines that
he very often has said exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
using that exact analogy as a puzzle.
We are not here to wait for somebody to come fix it. We're not here, in my opinion, again, all of this, but we're not here to wake up one morning and it's been magically transformed. And
we are here to be the magical transformers.
That's right.
That's exactly it.
We're the transformation team, and we get to transform it the way we see it. And, even if your idea is about something that you think is stupid, ridiculous, impossible, just drop all of that. That's somebody else's idea, I guarantee you.
Especially impossible.
Yeah.
Especially impossible. If you think it's impossible, we want to hear about it.
It just pull the word apart like Bashar is so fond of doing with words and say, I'm possible instead of impossible. It just doesn't work. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, right.
And we have, on that note, we've had a ton of people who ducked out temporarily at one point just to reload, and everybody would like to know, since we're talking about our movie, they'd also like to know, because we're getting close to wrap-up time, where they can find your movie, and they want to a couple questions about the release date again, because a couple of people missed that. And
I am putting links up for folks in the chat room, but for all of our listeners that don't have access, where can we find Zia Films?
Well, there is no release date yet. My production company is Zia Films. That's Z as in zebra, IA Films, FILMS, and the website is ziafilms.com. They can see what we're doing there. And with regard to Bashar information, Bashar Communications website, where there are dozens and dozens of CDs of all the different seminars and things that Bashar has done, is www.bashar.org. That's BASHAR.org, and they can find out everything that they need to find out about what Bashar is doing and how this whole thing started for me on that site as well. If they want more information, please visit those websites.
Absolutely. We put those links up in the chat room. We will, of course, have an archive of the show on our website, and there will be links. All these links will be there for you to reference in the future, and we'll probably embed a link to the trailer that's on YouTube, because it's just
awesome
great.
Trailer.
It's great. You know, you know you're dead, right? My dear fellow, I'm dead, not stupid. Just
one of most people's favorite characters in the movie is this ghost that's haunting his old house. Yes.
Yeah, it's just really, really a brilliant idea, a brilliant premise, and just right in line with that whole metaphysical side of sort of change your perspective and look at it just a little differently. What if we could just sort of go and chat? Because maybe we can. I don't know, but
maybe we can.
We're very excited about it, folks. Go over there again to ziafilms.com and see all of the things that are going on over there, and we'll keep everybody updated on our website when we hear something about release dates and stuff too, because it's going to be a great thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, well, is there any last-minute questions, guys, in the chat room or online? Because we've got about 10 minutes left, and all the important information is out there for you.
I see.
I
see our dear friend Stacy has Skyped in. I think you can use the keypad on Skype to raise your hand, Stacy, or should I just put you on the spot? Should I put her on the spot? What do you want to do?
Oh, put her on the spot for
sure.
On the spot. Oh, yeah. What?
Hi, Stacy. She's laughing at us.
Hi, my darlings. How are you?
What up, sister?
I was typing one. I did it in the chat thing. I did it on the other thing. I was typing like nuts. But I'm glad you saw me. Anyway, I was, you kind of blew my question because I wanted to ask about my grandmother. I have a recipe that I want to make for the holidays, and it's missing an ingredient. She's not here anymore. So I was like, well, you kind of blew that for me. I want to talk to my dead grandma. Kidding. But what I really want to say is just how proud I am, and thank you so much for Darryl. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, the three of you, for putting yourselves out there. I appreciate you more than I could ever say. And just thank you. No questions,
That's
just
very
a
sweet.
huge thank you.
Thank you. It's very sweet of you.
That's
Thanks,
it, guys.
sis.
I love you.
We love
I
you,
love
Sis.
all three of you. Thank you.
Thanks. Stacy.
Oh, Stacy. George says you're a channel woman. Get your own recipe ingredients.
The reason she was asking that thing, folks, is she's a channel and she's laughing at my talking about the soulmate and dead relative questions because she's gotten lots of them. And she's channels these group that call themselves the professors, and they're not. They're a little rough when you ask them silly things. Bashar can be. He
can be blunt.
He can be blunt, but I love his. He's skillful at sort of being blunt without being offensive.
Yes.
It's just look, no, it's like this. But there's no, I've never felt any judgment out of Bashar.
No, he doesn't judge. And I think people can sense that even when he's being very direct and very blunt, he has their best interests at heart, and all he's attempting to do is get them to understand what magnificent beings we all are. And that's really at the core of it. So I think they know that that comes from his heart, and he's just giving them the information he believes will help them the best in the straightest possible way without beating around the bush.
Yeah.
So I have a question, one question before we go.
Sure.
Does Bashar realize really how funny he is?
I don't know.
I'm just curious because
he'll just use whatever approach it takes to get the point across, and sometimes that requires humor, and he is absolutely willing to use humor. So I don't know.
Skillful with it. Skillful with it too. It's wonderful, and it's wonderful what you've done, that you've taken your excitement and gone right down, and because I know that channeling is far more accepted now, and many more people would have looked at you as insane when you started, and
well, that's okay. Like Bashar says, there's a good kind of crazy, and I feel that it falls in that category. It's a good kind of crazy.
Oh, I think it's the best kind, and
We still have a few minutes. Darryl, I'd like to offer you the floor to say whatever it is your little heart desires to say to our listeners tonight.
Well, I just first of all just like to thank you both so very much for providing this opportunity and this forum for people to discuss these kinds of ideas, because I think the more it gets out there, the more, like you said, acceptable it is, the more quote-unquote natural or normal it is for people to realize that we're all sort of feeling the same thing, but until we have a place where we can really discuss these things, a lot of times people are afraid to bring that out into public, and I would like to just encourage people to know that, as Bashar often says, don't be afraid of the unknown. The only thing you're ever going to find in the unknown is more of yourself, and to just go for it. So that would be my words of encouragement as well.
Good words.
Fantastic words.
All right, folks, there you have it. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. Much appreciation for your work, both the filmmaking aspect of it and the channeling element, which, by the way, saved my butt last year when I was very sick. So I have much appreciation for all of who you be,
yes,
and all of what you do.
Well, my pleasure, and thank you for allowing me to do it.
All right, folks. As we've always said, it takes all of us to make this thing go. So big thanks to everybody in the chat room, everybody that's new. I hope you'll join us again sometime. We do this every Tuesday and Thursday, and we have more special guests coming. December 29th, we have, who do we have December 29th, Jean?
Oh, you're asking me?
Mm-hmm.
What? Keeper of the, I don't have a calendar.
I'm the keeper of the calendar, but come on, it's our next special episode.
December 29th.
People have heard, I think, about this.
Oh, the Thrive movie.
About this Thrive movie thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all want me to keep track of this stuff?
I can keep track of that.
Yes,
but
we have,
the Gambles are coming.
We have the Gambles coming.
And we're going to chat about their movie and get that out there and let you guys ask your questions right straight to the horse's mouth, just like we did tonight. So come join us again. It'll be up on Blog Talk's schedule by tomorrow. And
on Tuesday night, which is the 13th, we have Nora Harold coming.
Nora Harold, absolutely. Channels Pleiadians and all of that, and probably will be channeling. So,
absolutely. So if you want to talk to the P's.
If you want to talk to Ms. P and Stacy, be sure and come back. We'll see if we can't get you Grandma's recipe, okay? Thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful night, and hope to see you Tuesday.
We love you.
Love you all.
Have a great night. Bye.
We hope you'll join us again next time. Until then, visit our website at everydayconnection.me. And please like our Facebook page at facebook.com/everydayconnection. Think you might miss an episode? No problem. Subscribe to our show on iTunes by searching for Everyday Connection Radio. Subscriptions are free, just like your everyday connection.